Speed, or as I like to call him, the Right Rev of Rev. Okay, so we give him two nicknames and all this. Jerry Bonkowski, NBCSports.com motorsports writer, not only giving the expert opinion on this show about NASCAR, but on NBCSports.com you'll find that he is an adept NHRA writer as well as IndyCar, and as typical Bristol and as surprising as the Kurt Busch victory may have been, it wasn't the lead story in motorsports this weekend. That would have been the IndyCar wreck at Pocono. Now, for people who, like me, who focus in on NASCAR, tell me a little bit, Jerry Bonkowski, what happened at Pocono, and yeah, tell us a little bit about this.
Well, you know, Marky, I've been doing this for a rookie on the IndyCar series, but he's got a lot of experience racing overseas and things like that. He was fighting for position with Ryan Hunter-Reay, and they were coming out of turn 2, and remember, Pocono was a 3-turn, they call it the tricky triangle. What happened was they two touched, their cars touched, and Wickens went up into the catch fence, and before he got back on the ground, his car essentially spun around in midair, probably about 6 or 7 times, and then it came down to rest and got hit by a couple other cars, and he was taken by helicopter to a Allentown, Pennsylvania hospital, which is about almost an hour away from Pocono. Essentially, he has lower extremity injuries. He has a possible injury to his spine, lung contusions. He got hurt really bad, and we have not had an update about 14 hours now. The last one was like around 10 o'clock last night, so we're still waiting to hear more. There was a possibility he may have to have surgery today, but you know, the main thing is that, you know, Indy cars have become a lot safer, but the irony of this whole thing, and you know, a few people have talked about it, and I'll just broach it very briefly. This brought back such a very, very bad memory, because it was 3 years ago, August 24th of 2015, when at the same racetrack, Pocono Raceway, Justin Wilson, he was hit by debris from another driver's crash and tragically was killed.
Yeah.
So, you know, Robert Wickens, you know, young guy, 29 years old, everybody seems to like him. He's had a long history with a lot of drivers there. He's best friends with James Hinchcliffe from Canada, Graham Rahal, and some racing him since they were like 10 years old. So, you know, everybody's obviously praying for him to recover. But
it says that the IndyCar rookie, Robert Wickens, both ankles and an arm have been, and a possible vertebrae fracture, and there's talk of possible surgery needed and such. Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the old school, you know, NASCAR comment where people say, oh, you couldn't get me in one of those Indy cars, they're too light. I mean, that's just an eggshell at 200 miles an hour, that sort of thing. But it really does bring back that cliche, if you will, about the sport. So we certainly our thoughts and prayers with Robert Wickens, and hope that he can make a recovery from this bad wreck. Before we get to the Bass Pro Shops NRA night race, which is of course what was going on around here, and really somebody won for the first time after a lot of tries in hot rod, and I know you've been covering a lot of hot rod as well. So let's see. It was a long time coming from who? Let get somebody like myself a little bit caught up to speed on this NHRA 60-year-old who won his first race.
Well, chalk one up for the old guys. Billy Torrance, who is the father of Steve Torrance, who has been leading the top few points in the NHRA this season. You know, this was only his, I believe it was his 20th in NHRA, and he finally wins his first race ever. Plus, he also was the #1 qualifier for the first time ever in his career, too. So, like father, like son, I guess it is, or like son, like father, I guess it is. But it's good to see but we still have 7 more races to go. But good thing to see Billy win, and I'm sure that this won't be the only win. I think there's more in him for sure.
Well, the thing though is you're in the Tri-Cities and the night race in Bristol. Some say, I guess I was a little disappointed with the crowd. Alan Gregory estimated it to be about 95,000, and I guess we could begin here. Have you ever been given a definitive answer on why NASCAR is not releasing attendance figures, Jerry Bonkowski?
Several years, and they also did away with releasing the amount of money that drivers win, the prize money. And ironically enough, IndyCar followed that path a few years ago too, as well. I don't really understand attendance figures pretty much at every other sporting venue that are released. Be it the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball. I don't know why NASCAR doesn't announce, and I think for the most part, IndyCar does not announce their crowds either. Fans are curious, media is curious, but you can draw your own conclusions why they don't
Look good. I mean, and now you have approximately 60,000 empty seats or so. I mean, who are you trying to fool? That's the way that I look at this. But I do want to, I know that there was somebody who said, Kyle Busch, who are you trying to fool? In that after the race, and of course Busch was involved in, the wreck that took out Martin Truex Jr. But did you see where a fan accosted him and a law enforcement official had to actually Busch? There was even some talk, I guess it was Martin Truex Jr.'s girlfriend was actually tweeting out displeasure with Kyle Busch. What did you think? This was, it seemed like it was much like Daytona, and again, typical Bristol, a lot of wrecks. Kurt Busch winning for the first time, ran an unethical race. What did you think about all the criticism?
I won't go that far to say it was an unethical race by any stretch. But I will say this, and I have been probably in the minority for the last 15, 20 years by saying this. But once again, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but my feeling gets proven once again. And that is, in NASCAR, they call it the use of the chrome horn, where by touching them and sending them flying. I don't agree with that. I've never agreed with that. I think that's very poor sportsmanship. I don't think it's really necessary to see in the sport. I mean, of course, there's a lot of high drama when you see something like that. But on the flip side, when it doesn't go right, when you don't get pushed out of the way, and Kyle Busch himself knows very well what this is like, because there have been instances Kyle Busch goes on. So I just think that NASCAR, I don't think that they need to have that kind of a move in the sport. I mean, everybody else talks about how good it is and how they like it, and that, again, high drama, but at what cost? That's what I always say.
I mean, there was a lot of drama. There was comebacks. I thought, Ryan Blaney or Logano had a chance to win, but it was Kyle Busch who wound out. I guess first time in 12 years that Kyle Busch had won in Bristol. Jerry Bonkowski of NBCSports.com, and that was it was sort of like, oh, they're Kyle, but there is a little bit. Oh, it's that one, Kurt Busch, and so potential sleeper driver emerging in the playoffs. Could it be Kurt Busch based on his victory in Bristol?
Well, I don't know if I would go that far to say that, but I will say this. It's pretty clear that Kurt is in his final year with Stewart Haas Racing. There's all kinds of rumors about him possibly going over to Chip Ganassi Racing, replace Jimmy Murray. There's other talk about it going maybe some other teams. Obviously has to be very attractive to whatever team he may wind up with next year. Kurt's, I think he's 38 if I'm not mistaken, and I think that what this win at Bristol Saturday night does, it gives him a lot of confidence. It puts him surprised to see him do well in the playoffs, but you're going to have to get through that first round. That's always the most tricky and the most difficult thing. And when he's made the playoffs in the past, he's had a lot of problems in that first round.
Well, I also Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr., if I can go back to that, any idea on who might be able to come in and sponsor Truex? Because he needs another one. You're talking about, maybe Kurt Busch going to Chip Ganassi, and yes, I've seen that, but it seems, you're talking about the defending Cup champion, somebody who may, actually win it again. He's had a good year. Have you heard of any sponsor, Jerry Bonkowski, that might want to sponsor Truex in 2019?
Well, that's what I would call one of the most unsung storylines right now in the sport, because Barney Fister, the owner's team, he's essentially funded that team out of his own pocket for what's been the last 12 years, I think it's 15 years, whatever it's been, and he just can't do it anymore. And so he's out. They had Eric Jones there last year. They had Monster Energy. I'm sorry, not Monster Energy, 5 Hour Energy. Back with what car, and now the sponsorship situation is to me, reading between the lines, it seems like it's almost a pretty dramatic thing that, he may not have a ride next year, Mark Truex Jr. What would happen if he winds up winning the championship and then, because of lack of sponsorship, he doesn't race next year? That is a possibility. It's a remote possibility, but still a possibility nonetheless to think about. So I think that, certainly as good as Truex has been this season, for a long-term contract, because, the sponsorship arena in both, NASCAR, IndyCar, NHRA, it's very difficult these days. A lot of companies are pulling out. Look at Lowe's. They're leaving Jimmy Johnson after what.
Even if he doesn't, want to erase this. Well, actually, I will, since Quick Stop Market. They've got STP additives in Marathon gas and such. To this day, you've got that. And the idea that, Lowe's and Jimmy Johnson, one of the all-time kings of the sport, they wouldn't want to continue with that is, to me, just to North Carolina and Charlotte and such, and, the heart of racing country. I'm stunned. I will ask you this, though. I've mentioned this where I can't even keep track of all the sponsors that we have. This in Bristol, it used to be years ago the Volunteer 500. Now it's the Bass Pro Shops NRA Night Race. Well, as far as I'm concerned, either the Bass Pro Shops or NRA is just not getting the bang for their buck. They got to share the bill, if you will. So, a question. Let's have the Volunteer 500 again, and then have Bass Pro Shops or NRA sponsor the drivers again and have that relationship and that brand loyalty with the driver. Is there any chance of maybe that happening? To me, I'm reminded of Marketing 101 in college. It would seem to me that that's what I would want to do if I'm NASCAR. Have you heard anything about this, Jerry Bonkowski?
No, I have not. And, while it may sound good in theory, in practice, it would be very difficult to do something like that because, think about this. First of all, the entitlement sponsors for a series or for a race. So, it would be very difficult for NASCAR to just say, okay,
was the team.
PNC or Bass Pro Shops or NRA, let's say they take their money and they throw it behind a certain driver in NASCAR.
The whole the bang for you're going to shop at Bass Pro Shops if you're a Jimmy Johnson fan, and they would go with them. Yeah.
Let me say this though. You're talking essentially apples and oranges in the sense that if you're going to sponsor a race, like I said, it's going to run $750,000 to $1.5 million to sponsor a race. If you're going to sponsor a team and a driver, promotion's pulling out.
Yeah.
They're probably pulling in. They're probably putting in about that money, and a lot of companies and businesses don't have that kind of money. So that's why you're seeing so many different sponsors for individual teams. I mean, like Richard Petty. I mean, he's had what 3, 4, 5, 6 different sponsors this year for Bubba Wallace in various races. That's the new norm. To save money. If the team has really wanted to save money, if they wanted to attract more sponsors, there's one very simple way to do it: cut the number of